You're tuning in to Gone.net.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Gone.net. For those of you just joining us because nobody did before, this is take two. So we're gonna have a nice quick intro this time. But
can't retell my cold jokes. It's very cold in Canada.
You can't just recreate the jokes again. But you know, we basically figured out that we're old, we're cold, but hopefully the rest of the show is good. I could have said gold there, but I didn't.
So today we're talking about a new community initiative that we're going to spearhead management trips today.
Yeah, so we've got somebody less old, probably less cold, but not by much for either. Hey Gerald, how's it going?
Hey, yes, less old. We just established that in the first take. Just to back up a little bit, we thought we were live streaming, then we were checking and we weren't really live streaming, but we are now. We checked.
We are live.
We are now.
We're live
hello
somewhere.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Listen, to be fair, it said we were live streaming.
We were live.
I set up all this stuff. I even got here early, tried to set it up. It was all set up. John and Gerald were on my case about my resolution. That's normal morning start.
We are completely faultless here.
We were talking about bad bandwidth. But here we are.
It's all right. It's all right. You're old. All this new technology, it's fine.
To be fair, we do blame this software quite a bit. There's always something going wrong with it. So we'll see how this goes.
Right.
It's very friendly, but it just seems to be buggy. So here we are.
So now that we're here and Gerald's here, what are we talking about today?
So we've been talking about, I've been talking to Gerald. I've been talking to John. My joke was earlier is that John usually comes and, he everybody's doing Blazor now. Everybody's doing Maui. And he usually comes and nags me. And because he does all the UI stuff. I usually do the device servicing stuff. And he's like, hey, have you made this thing? You should make this thing. Da 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 da. And we go through this whole stuff of me building him a plugin or something, or I have something already. And Gerald is obviously very involved in the community toolkit. He's done a lot of this stuff. You're even doing a lot of device servicing stuff. That's not UI.
Yeah, you do. You do quite a few plugins. So, like, what are your top plugins in order of your perceived popularity?
Well, the most popular one by far, I think, is the plugin Maui Audio. So the audio plugin that allows you to kind of like do anything from recording audio to playing a simple sound and everything in between. We've had some great help from the community there as well, which is always great. Like that's actually a Dutch person who chimed in. Twan, if you're watching, great work. He built kind of like a filters solution for that, where it's like, hey, you can plug in a filter so you can do silence detection, because that was what he needed at that point.
That's cool.
And that's something that people would request more and more often. But I was like, I don't have the time. This is all like side work. I don't really need it right now. But he was like, hey, I need it. I'm going to put it out there for everyone. So that's great, right? Community all over.
It's always amazing, like the stuff that you can do with things that other people have made, and like that kind of thing. I don't know. It shouldn't surprise me in Maui, but it kind of does, because it's like, oh, like somebody made that, and I could just plug that into my app.
Yep,
that's great.
Yep. Yeah, that always keeps surprising me. So and that's kind of like, if you go way back to like Xamarin Essentials. Back then you had James Montemagno, of course.
Do you know? I don't know if we've talked about it ever. Do you know what the original name was for that we came up with? It was kind of a code name it turned into, because we were worried about like copyright problems.
Was that Caboodle?
Yeah.
Was that the first one?
Because do you know why?
No.
Because we wanted to include the whole kit and caboodle of things you might need.
Yeah. So so that was their first, right? Like in the Xamarin era, and I think that was, I was in the community, not at Microsoft or Xamarin at the time, but from the outside, it kind of like looked like James Montemagno. We all know him. He's our very best friend in the entire world. He had like 100 plugins for all these kinds of things, right? For all these tiny things. And people were like, I don't want to install 20 plugins just to, make my app work. So I think
people didn't like expect to need to install them for
Right.
making it work, right? Like to do something like get a quick location or, do, basic like camera, media access, that kind of stuff. Like that should just be in the box, right?
Exactly. So then that was kind of like put together. That became Xamarin Essentials, and now is like even a step further with Maui. Like it's in the box, right? It's not
Yeah.
even Xamarin Essentials, what is separate plugin where you got all of it. Now it's just APIs that you can use inside of Maui. But we still don't cover everything, right? Like
Yep.
because of how the whole Maui lifecycle went, and also just because primarily it's still a UI framework.
Yeah.
So we still don't have everything. So audio is one good example. Another plugin that I have is kind of like access at least a part of kind of like the health API. So the pedometer is there. Screen recording is something that you can do nowadays with devices. So I feel like we've come kind of like full circle. I'm now James. I'm coming up with all the APIs that we don't have and have a ton of
It's
APIs.
like the next step of Essentials.
Essentials too.
And to be fair, like we also, our goal when we did the Essentials thing, both in the implementation of the APIs and in like the things we chose to include in that set of APIs, I always kind of coined the thing that we used as like the 80-20 rule, right? Like we want to satisfy like 80% of our customers and their use cases for the things that they need the most. And so that was kind of the guiding principle as we did it. So I'm curious too to see how we kind of get through and how you work through some of this in terms of like, maybe you include an API for some function. But when we did stuff like that, like the browser API, right? We're like, well, you could get really in the weeds customizing stuff that you want to do with platform specifics that might work on Android and might not work other places or vice versa. And we just kind of stopped at like, what do most people need here? Okay, probably not this other thing. So let's just like, serve the greatest number of customers. And so I don't know if you've thought much, either of you, about that aspect of things going into this kind of Essentials V2.
I have thought many times.
Well, you would have, I guess, already. You both would have already. So yeah.
And then there's the other part of that too, right? Like, sorry, Allan, to interrupt you, but there's the other part, like not even like, hey, how can we service all the customization? But it's also like we are dealing with multiple platforms, right? So some things are available. So the first thing that kind of like comes to mind, like audio, like pretty much all the platforms, they do it very differently, but they have kind of the same capabilities. If you think of like the screen recording one that I build, is like iOS has a great way of popping up a little editor before you kind of like save the screen recording. Which can be a Boolean, right? Like, hey, just save the file and don't bother, or come up with a little editor and you can see what's going on. Android, not so much, right? So that's also like, hey, are we going to service that? And that's just one example, right? But
and then like how if you decide to, right? Do you want to make it so that the iOS thing you can at least toggle, but you don't care about others? Do you want to invent a UI on Android where it doesn't exist? Like, yeah.
Well, and this was the thing too when I did Shiny. So I've got like the Bluetooth, the background HTTP, the geofencing, the background GPS, all that stuff. And I have a hosting model because obviously it couldn't just be Maui. Like I made it to service my customer base. And I know a lot of people hated it. They were like, oh, why do I got to do this? Why can't I use the Maui permissions? I said, you can. I had other people to support, right? Like I've got people paying for this. And I got a lot of flack for it. People were like, oh, why? Just leave me alone. Come on, man. And then I also had Windows support. Now I've pulled that out because there's so much Windows questions. And I was like, dude, I don't make a cent off Windows. Now, John knows my opinion on Windows. I won't even get into it. But
yeah, I mean, as we come at it from different perspectives, right? It's like you are coming at it from, this is what I need to do my business and earn my, my income and stuff. And I like Gerald and I come at it from, this is our business and we need to earn our income, but the requirements are different. And so like Windows is, important to us because of that reason and less to you because of the same.
And as we look ahead, right, Avalonia is getting ready to release their section, which is for you guys that covers Linux, right? Covers Linux, covers web assembly.
Oh, I'm so excited for Pool Math.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool, right? Does that cover Mac OS as well? Are you going to get Mac OS?
I think they're in on that. So like we need probably to do something to, well, maybe not really anything, but like we don't have Mac OS like what's the app kit, I guess is the kind of way to
Yeah.
refer to it, right? We use the Mac Catalyst stuff. So they, in my understanding, will have like the app kit covered side of things.
Which I think is good because that opens up a whole whack of
It does,
stuff,
and
it makes it easier.
And the way, like, just let a little side tangent here, the way that I think that is going to start getting enabled, like we did a little bit of work, well, we being Shane, a while back to see, like, could we make another Maui backend, but do it outside of the Maui repository? Because, like, if you want to add a Maui backend, like you want it to support another platform, it's kind of a pain to have to fork Maui's repo and then like either maintain your fork or like try and get contributions back in. So the goal was like, let's make it so that you can just do it as your own NuGet package and your own repo. Now, the cool thing, I haven't talked to anyone about this, but in my mind is spinning with like, hey, we still have a lot of code in Maui, I think, that's like if deft or commented out, or we used to, that would be easy to go back in the Git history and find that did like, there's a button, here's the code for doing it on, you know, the AppKit side of things as well. And we just kind of never used it, right? So somebody could go and like create the community backend and start pulling some of that over and not only have Avalonia, but maybe a community maintained, you know, actual native implementation too. So if you're listening, someone.
As we look ahead though, we've got this stuff coming at us, right? We've got these new platforms. I mean, I've been doing web stuff. Now web for a lot of the stuff I'm doing, like Bluetooth is still prototype still. This is why people go to native platforms, because the browser, there are people probably twice my age, twice John's age, that take forever to make these decisions. Like Bluetooth has been in prototype mode in browsers for like, I don't know, 6 years now.
Oh,
It's
really?
still, you still have to go and turn it on, man. Like, what are we in the dark ages? And it's an exciting opportunity, because imagine you don't have to go and set up all these stupid permissions. It's just in your browser, right? So it'd be nice to start looking at these things, right? And have these open platforms. So, you know, we've got these new platforms coming. We don't want to overlap with the Maui toolkit at all, right? Like this, my suggestion is we look at this as, you know, the non-essentials, the essentials. I don't know what to call it.
Non-essentials, but still important. Yeah.
Yes.
The additionals.
The originals. And I mean, I've had stuff in Shiny forever, and it's overwhelming to deal with the amount of requests and well, sometimes some, you know, Gerald's used to it too. Sometimes you get some nasty comments and stuff, and it's like, then they're like, why don't you support this? And it's like, I have it. It just, I don't want to deal with the support. It's a lot, man.
It's open source, and you're doing it, you know, on your own time, and yeah, it serves your own purpose for part of it. But like, it's open source. If you really want something, you can go and use it, and
but I
make your
figure
own changes. If
we could turn this into a community effort and focus on kind of the platforms, the platform code, and then make it easy to integrate with Maui, etc. You know, there's an opportunity here for a new toolkit. I don't know what that looks like. We're here to discuss that, right? I don't have a name for it. I don't even know what this. We don't even have a repo. This is like discussion zero. And so it was a case of, okay, Gerald's got all these things, and we can go through them and kind of go, yep, no. And I'm sure John has ideas, right?
Are you bringing up a list that we're going through? Is that?
I can bring up. I do have.
Going through Shiny stuff and go through some of Gerald's stuff.
You don't want to look at yourselves in infinity.
Infinite us.
There we go.
All right.
So I've got this. My documentation's always under construction. We won't go through the hosting models, but I think this is something we'll have to worry about, because if we're going to host in the Blazor WebAssembly world, we want to plug in nicely into Maui, but we have to consider just Blazor. That's my suggestion anyways, but you know, open for discussion.
I think it makes sense as Avalonia is like getting into the world of WASM and stuff like that'll be a similar thing, right? Like, how do you do these things in the browser?
It's a different.
I know Blazor's not quite the same, but like you can do the Blazor WASM, and so like that part of it becomes similar. I don't know how that exactly checks out. I mean, I guess it is. You're still using the browser at the end of the day, if it's server side or, you know, whatever, right?
Now, permission servicing, I don't know. I've always had problems there. Like some of the permissions, especially around location, very difficult. Not to say that you guys don't have a good mechanism, but it's hard hard-ish to do with the Maui implementation right now, just because I don't know. There's so many wild things that happen now with.
So I think the other part of a lot of this to consider will be, are there changes that, you know, make sense to get contributed back into Maui itself to help with some of it, right? So permissions would be one of them. Like, is there a gap? You know, do we need to like add more points that you can kind of hook into the life cycle of permission stuff, like that sort of thing?
I mean, when I did Shiny, I chose to put the permission check right in the service for discoverability purposes, right? So if you're using like a Bluetooth manager, it's right there. Request permissions, right? You don't have to guess. You don't have to pull out another abstraction. It's set up for the platform already, so there's no work other than the 5 million things you got to put into your info P list, your whatever it is in Android today. I mean, I swear to God that changes every day. Right. So you'd have to go through those things, but they're always there. So I don't know if we do another abstraction. I know when we talk about, like, when I looked at things, there were several things that are built into Maui that you almost always need, right? You need a key value store. You need kind of like a blob storage or a repository to store, like, hey, here's a blob of geofence data that we need to store to disk. So that was one. And then battery and connectivity. Doesn't matter what app you're writing, 99% of the time you're going to need battery and connectivity for something. You're going to need a disk storage, and you're going to need a key value storage. So it's those four things always needed. And so, like, anything we do, I think we're going to either have to expand Maui's reach. I don't know. Is Avalonia going to cover the essentials for these things? Do we know?
I think so. They actually had a fork of essentials back in the day, and so I think we could definitely, you know, see how to work with them to make sure that those areas are covered for the things that they had. We actually had, like, we could also go back to the Xamarin code and like the Xamarin Essentials days, because we had implementations that never got merged. I think, like, I know Matthew spent a bunch of time doing stuff for some of the Windows and like, I think to make it WPF compatible.
Okay.
And so, like, that might be something. And I think the same with AppKit, and obviously not web probably at the time, but there's code out there, you know, not that it's like necessarily completely done, but like there's good starting points. And honestly, probably, you know, it's a good way to use some AI to go point at things and say, like, here's the implementation that used to be here. Like, go change it up for me to plug it into Maui, and then see where that gets you to start.
Well, so here's the good thing is that obviously I have, so when we talk about the four main features, so again, we'll put that as storage, key value, or disk storage, or blob storage, key value storage, battery, connectivity.
So we have key value, right? So, like, if there's something that needs to change there, that seems like a reasonable thing to try and put into Maui itself. My goal here is to talk about, hey, what we have that in Maui, right? We need to have that everywhere, right? So we need to have. Yeah, we need
the
it.
Browser's easy because we have what do they call it? Local storage, session storage, and these things I actually already have, which is great, right? So I hoard code. So we have key value, we have disk storage, connectivity, and battery surprisingly built into the browser too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
so we get that covered.
So we what we should do, I think, is like the first starting point, almost like what Shane did when he went and tried to, like, can I do a backend for WPF for Maui that doesn't exist in the repo? I think the same exercise should be done.
Yep.
You know, for essentials. Can we do the WASM? Can we do the whatever?
Oh, I already have it.
Oh, good.
I'm so prepared. Gerald had to take a call, so he's not here to participate, but that's all right. He'll catch up.
Yeah.
So the four platforms that I've suggested. So obviously the Maui platforms we're going to have covered, but we're talking WebAssembly, Linux, Mac OS, and yes, Windows, right? We have to cover Windows. People are using it. But we can decide where we pick and choose what works. For instance, like when I look at the interfaces so when we talk about Shiny, Bluetooth can pretty much go all of those. Now, Linux gets a little weird because it depends on your stack. There are ways to integrate. I have done it. It's not bad. But if we make this a community toolkit package, I realize people don't like reactive. So we'd have to look at, are we going to do async enumerables, right? Pull out the RX. I think we're going to have to.
The other thing, like, I know we talked earlier about it being like early on critical to have stuff not be like a bunch of different packages, but I wonder at some point if some of this effort would be fine to have more than one package, right? You do that for Shiny already. Like,
yeah,
it's
because
not
you get a lot
deal.
of hate. The thing is, when you get into Android, especially with like the importance non-essentials is, so when we start to get into like periodic jobs and stuff, you pull in a ton of Android X, and then people are like, "Hey, you made my app fat." And sorry, don't install everything. And it's, as Maui updates, you got to push those packages along, otherwise you get into conflicts. And so I still find that, well, if it comes out of the box, like all the APIs are there and you don't need to put AX in or Android X, you're fine. But the non-essentials almost always require something external, and then people start throwing knives at you. So I still suggest different packages, but that's all part of the discussion here, right?
Yep.
And I feel that's a little bit so, because we have all the new AOT stuff, right? So I missed part of the discussion. I needed to take a quick call. Sorry for that. But we have all the AOT stuff, right? So from that perspective, it's not really needed. But I can imagine people still kind of like have a icky feeling if they just install like one 10
people
megabyte
don't. Yeah. I think there's also something to be said, like, if for companies that are starting to really hone in on like their whole, bill of materials kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the less that you have just in there referenced, even if it doesn't end up in the final build, is probably easier for a lot of people in terms of like compliance and stuff they have to go through. So I think it's a reasonable. If there's something like Bluetooth here where, like, Allan, you're like, hey, the reactive stuff is like really, deeply rooted in how this implementation works. I don't know that it like
it's actually not. I try and convince people you want to use reactive, especially for Bluetooth.
Yeah.
But I have all the async. What I don't have is async enumerables.
I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to be an ally for your reactive for once
for 5
in my life.
years to sell John on RX, and he just will not drink the Kool-Aid.
I know.
That's fine. I get it.
I'm trying to take a sip here. All right, like, just throw me a bone.
You're just BSing me this morning.
No.
You are. I know.
So anyway, I would put something like Bluetooth in its own, maybe if it's got some extra dependencies that you don't need elsewhere, just as a general rule.
I just think now, if we're going to look to make this a community effort, or at least an expanded effort, whatever that is, if we're going to pull stuff like Bluetooth in, okay, well, we got to make it go async enumerable, right? We got to follow the stream. RX is still kind of growing, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's mainstream in terms of .NET anymore, which is sad.
Yeah.
I love it. Whatever. I'm very sad about it, but I can move on. But I think in terms of all the things we've talked about, this can hit Linux again, depending on stack. There's some weird stuff with Linux, but certainly we could go Mac OS, we could go WebAssembly, even though you got to check the stupid box still. Windows I already have. Right.
Yeah.
So and
Bluetooth is one of the ones that people have always asked for historically to be in the box. And like, why don't you have it? And it's like, well, because it's not that simple.
If you do Android with Bluetooth, man, you'll know why. It's not fun.
Bluetooth, definitely
I've been fighting it for years. I've been fighting it for years. It's a big effort. So
yeah, and the other one is like, I'm on my channel, we're streaming this as well, and there's a couple of people in the chat, and I'm like, hey, what are the things that you're looking for mostly? And they're like, yeah, push notifications, it's super hard. That's the other one, like push notification and Bluetooth, always ask for. They're not in there because they're super complicated.
And so we'll get to that. We'll get to those ones for sure, because we're going down the list, and then we're going to go through Gerald's plugins as well and see where we can check the box on these platforms. So Bluetooth hosting, pretty much the same thing. Like people need this. I need this. Like if you're going to have a Bluetooth app that talks to something, you have to have something you can talk to. This is primarily good for like the Linux boxes, right? A lot of people do IoT solutions. Mm-hmm. So I think that this one I haven't done, to be honest. I don't have any code for this. So I see a home for that for Linux. Periodic jobs, I don't know if this Android and iOS, Windows is a pain to try. Like you have in proc, you have out of proc. Don't even get me started on all the problems that come there.
Doesn't this tie in though to like some of the other, like, don't you kind of need, well, maybe not need, but isn't this helpful for other things? Like if you want background geolocation,
Yeah, but no, because
Okay.
geolocations is still based on its own.
you're not
mechanism.
using the job stuff to do that, or I guess
No.
you're using some layer that both of those use to implement like running code that is
Yeah.
not okay.
But if we're talking like Linux and we're talking Mac OS, even WebAssembly kind of has periodic jobs, but certainly Linux and Mac OS, if the app's not running, it's just a timer, right? So this one, I don't know. Maybe it has something. GPS, geofencing. Yeah, again on the mobile platforms, Windows, there's just no traction whatsoever. Nobody walks around looking at a map while they're walking with their big tough books, right? If they are, and if you start applying this to Linux,
How did you mention it?
Yeah, it'd be fun, but not practical. I don't think I ever saw any uptick in the usage there ever. So, this one again, probably mobile only. I can't see it applying to Linux. Same with Mac OS. Hey, let me carry around my MacBook, right? Doesn't make any sense. So maybe not. HTTP transfers. This one I wish.
The one thing I will say, I'm not sure if that's still a thing. The one thing I will say, I cannot detach it here. So our Windows towers, it's not really a thing anymore, right? We tried that around like Windows 8, but it's not really a thing anymore. Right?
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's dead.
derailed the thing here.
Yeah.
It's dead. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the APIs that were on, what was it?
Because I suddenly remembered, like when I was working at a company before Microsoft, we definitely had like an application that had a Windows tablet and they were walking around with it. So like maybe, but I don't think it's a thing anymore. So
Well,
yeah.
and Windows Phone was still like it was
Yeah.
kind
I
of
know.
up and coming. Yeah, and I think that was the intent. So it there was a home, and then they killed it. So sadly,
Okay.
so I don't know that this one's got a home beyond mobile. Maybe it's not a good candidate to move in this discussion. Now, HTTP transfers, I feel like this is one of my hidden gems. I use this thing everywhere. And there is some other community projects I've seen that use like NS session URL for iOS. And the reason I think that this has got a home on all platforms is because a lot of them do. So when you take a picture, I don't know if you've seen the size of pictures these days, but if you take a picture even with the Maui camera, it'll give you like here's a 12 meg file, right?
Yeah.
Because it's got like there's like 3 cameras on the damn thing now, and it's like here's like the James Webb Telescope view of the world.
Yeah, so if you want to upload that and somebody swipes the app to the background.
Yeah, that essentially it's gone, right? Or if you've got bad connectivity, you need to know that somehow this transfer needs to hit at some point, and it's got to be resilient. But there isn't anything out there. I haven't seen this. Like I said, I almost use this in every one of my apps.
Does this work on like Windows and Linux and stuff? Do they have it? Like, I mean, okay.
This hits everything. And the mechanism to do it is basically, if the app is live, do I have connectivity? Okay, I don't.
But like, what about like somebody closing the app? Like, do you just like spawn another process on those platforms to do it, or
if you can? Well, NS session URL is automatically kind of the platform takes over. Android use a foreground service nowadays. They've got this ancient, decrepit API that kind of works, but it's only for downloads. So we need something to upload and download.
Okay.
So, and it applies to everything. You basically need this. I need to know if I ship something. I'm not going to sit there and wait now with a little spinny doily goes right.
Yeah.
Or if you're sending the world, I just want to know at some point it hits, and then you can tell me, hey, yeah, we got it up. Great. So this is one of those ones I'd love to see move over and done everywhere. I use it everywhere. It's like the hot sauce. We put that stuff on everything. Beacons, this is like a dead tech.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that's really doing much with that. No. That's probably fine to sit on its own and shiny.
Local notifications, yeah. This applies to everything. It applies to web. It doesn't apply to Linux.
Do you use some of that implementation for doing any of the like background stuff?
Yeah, GPS and jobs, but
Because like in Android, you have to have a notification to hold on to a background service now, right?
yeah, and I would do it. I would do it in HTTP transfers as well to say, hey,
Yeah.
your upload finally hit. We
Okay.
realize it took 2 years, but you sent 40 gigs, so
It seems like there's some love for having those in whatever this is called.
they've ballooned so much on between Android and iOS, and then the web. The web is out there. The web notifications is. And we're only talking the local notifications because now,
Right.
like Gerald said, here comes push notifications.
So
So the reason I ended up doing this was good friend Dan Siegel poked me on this, and he's like, "You got to have something." And then people started saying, "Well, why don't you support Azure? Why don't you?"
Yep.
there's a million providers. I had, of course, Push Sharp years ago. I mean, the code is still there. It's a dead library.
really?
It's dead.
And that just was a thing to interface like with the actual Apple and Google servers, right? So like almost like roll your own Azure thing. So like, yeah, there's two parts to this. There's the server side, and like you said, like there's a million different providers that do this. So like pick your own, and like usually they're just HTTP request APIs, right? It's not like crazy. And then there's the client side, which is the hard part. So like you, Allan, have done some things to help make it easier to like do that hookup on the client, right? For in terms of like in like register for remote notifications on iOS, get your token, have a nice API abstraction so that Shiny's like, here's your token. You can go figure out what you need to do with it, right?
Right. So it's actually probably one of the lightest code paths.
Yeah.
But you can bolt on the extra implementations like Firebase, and when I did have that as a thing in Azure and whatever else. One Signal was in there once upon a time. But really at the core of it, it's always been the base, like iOS or whatever. So this is there. It's easy to implement in terms of the client side and even the server side. What's hard is the 5 quadrillion steps you have to do in between, like just to set up notifications. This is crazy. And every platform's like, here's your 5 million steps. And then you go into Android, here's your 5 million steps. Then you go into Windows. And even WebAssembly. WebAssembly is crazy. I don't even know how we would ever do an abstraction for WebAssembly with push notifications.
So I was thinking, that one is a maybe a not first iteration by any means.
No.
I was thinking about this problem space in general because you've got your like huge template, right? That is like highly configurable. Give me, you can check the boxes of what you want, which is great. New project gets you set up.
Yep.
The challenging part is how do I bring this into my existing project? And we're at the perfect time, both in terms of availability of the stuff and like where the ecosystem is developing enough now that this is the thing to do with this, I think, is to build out some skills, some AI skills. And I know everyone like, oh, AI. But truly, I think this is a good application for it where you could have like your skill for how to configure push notifications, and you still have to have docs. You still have to have all the stuff. You still have to like give people the way to guide through it. If they don't want to use that, that's fine. But if they have access to being able to use something like Copilot, CLI, or Cloud Code, if we include as part of the community toolkit some skills for these things, like people will have a much easier time of potentially configuring, their app to have the right info plist stuff, to have the right, whatever hookups you need. So that's my addition here. Is I think the whole project in general will also benefit from some of that kind of stuff.
And that's something we could certainly look into. Maybe a template, maybe the skills for sure. I think
it is, some context to give it to know how to work with your project and do it.
So we have about 10 minutes left, and I want Gerald to have a chance to go through some of his ideas, some of his
we'll
put you on the spot a little bit, but because John has a hard stop in 10 minutes. So
no, that's all fine. No, I'm just laughing a little bit because I definitely think that there's a more solid base in what you have with Shiny and kind of like start from there. The one addition that I would have, I actually forgot about the last one that you got there, the calendar one. So I think the audio and the calendar one are both things that are good. Screen recording has been nice. I don't get like a ton of feedback. I see it has a decent amount of stars. Thank you for your star, Alan.
I haven't
But
started your
you know,
projects.
it's not, like I said, I don't get a ton of feedback on it. So I'm not sure if anyone is actually using it, or it's kind of like nice that it's out there.
Do you think it
Um,
might have some life with desktop platforms? And there
I
is.
think so. Someone added the Windows implementation for it,
Okay.
Okay.
which I think uses some outside. It's been a while since I looked at that, but
Okay.
because there's no APIs provided in Windows to do this, for as far as I know. Because on Android and iOS there are.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you know that there is JavaScript? There's a record RTC.
are you kidding me? That's
Yeah, there
amazing.
is. I don't know how far it goes. I've only briefly looked at it. So is like Linux to me, this maybe has, when you think about support scenarios where customers are like, I
Mhm.
clicked it and it broke, and you're like, you clicked what? Do you know how often I get those stupid things? You're like, you clicked
Oh
what?
yeah.
Right? Like if they could it has metrics. And I know like if you use Sentry or stuff, they have it so that they can
Yeah,
kind of
you can
replay
track your
sessions.
flow a bit, but yeah.
I don't know. I saw value in it. It just was, I haven't touched this API at all, but like, Linux possibly, if we bring Mac OS in, definitely, like I thought the desktop platforms, this would have value, but if it's a pain to implement, then it's something we could definitely.
But that's gonna be the thing for most, right? Or for most, well, but for some things at least. Like I'll be honest and admit that whenever I started looking into some web APIs, there is more than I thought these days. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But we're gonna run into scenarios like the Bluetooth one that you mentioned earlier, right? Like there is support, but you still have to kind of like enable it. Screen recording, okay, apparently there is something. We can probably think of something that's just not possible um, on browser or desktop, right? So how do we kind of like want to handle that?
I think if it's a popular enough feature for the platforms it works on, it's reasonable to have, even if it means some platforms are not included.
One thing too is that we could always do a voting. I mean, you guys do an awesome job in the Maui community toolkit of putting like a specification out and then
Yeah.
having votes on it, right? And then saying like, well, these have got some challenges. Do we? You can offer it up to the community, or you can say, I'm going to go for it, right?
Yep.
And we could do that for some of these complex ones and say, okay, we're going to tackle. Remember, we don't tackle anything. It just comes. We can take this
Mm.
as is, if we even want to do that, right? It's again, this is open forum to say, is there something here? Is there something we can all work on together and
Yeah.
get the community involved? Now, this one's my favorite, Gerald. I use this thing. I'm using this thing. See, I got another star here.
Yes.
This guy I do use. This has been a godsend for things that I'm working on, even professionally. But you don't take any donations, but
There's a button there. I mean,
But it would be a little bit
I couldn't
awkward
see
because
it.
I'm sponsoring you, Alan. So then we can maybe we should work something out.
There's a name for
Um,
that.
and I must honestly admit, Sean Lawrence Beejington online has been a great help with this one as well. So I think if you scroll a little bit down on the right,
yeah,
he's over there. So he's been doing a lot of work on this as well. So we kind of like teamed up for this one. But yeah, this is one that got a lot of love and a lot of feedback, and a lot of people are using this one. So that's really great.
I guess
and this
that's
one,
another consideration too, is like if you have things that there's been substantial contributions from someone else, like do we want to make sure everyone's cool with
yeah.
moving stuff over and
I mean, it's again, is there any value in putting these all together and making a community effort? That's the discussion here.
Yeah.
So we've got all these APIs. We've got varying amounts of work that each of us have done. Why not? Why not take a look at it?
yeah.
And if nothing comes of it, great. If something comes of it, great. No matter what, one way or the other, if nothing was to come of this, I still continue Shiny. Gerald still does everything else and
Whatever he
the
does.
kitchen sink. Because we seem to offset. Like I get some of these APIs, and then anything that I'm missing, somebody else covers. So it's been great.
I like that it kind of elevates, maybe some like individual implementations and stuff to have more visibility, and then also more contributions because they're kind of in one spot that's a little bit more, official, or like, I don't know. It's just those places always get a little bit more like cred automatically. And
a lot of users are like, if you're using Maui, if it's not from Microsoft, it's poison. You cannot touch it. And it's kind of stupid, but I get it. There's liabilities, and I guess I shouldn't say it's stupid. It's short-sighted, right? I get it. Fork it. You should fork all open source anyways. Even Microsoft stuff, they are known to drop projects. Not you guys specifically, but Microsoft.
What are you saying, Allan?
Yeah.
Don't feed all the rumors.
So it's just, you should be forking anyway. So when we talk about audio, I think you could pretty much get it everywhere except for Linux, of course, always Linux. But we could certainly hit web. We could hit Mac OS 100%. So there's growth opportunities there.
Yeah.
Calendar, I don't know. This one probably not. I think this really feeds to Android and iOS only.
Yeah.
Maybe Windows. Maybe Mac.
Oh, yeah, Mac. So I think all of this typically also works for macOS, right? Because, well, at least Mac Catalyst. I should say Mac Catalyst.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember Windows. I think there's something for Windows in there. But it might be, I think that was it. Like, it uses a local calendar on your Windows machine, and I think they even deprecated that, so I might have removed it.
Okay.
And that'll move to kind of like the Outlook APIs, and I was like, I'm not going to go there. So, again, like Android and iOS have great APIs for this, and then Windows is like, yeah, you have to use some Graph API for Outlook or whatever. I'm like, that's kind of like overshooting what I'm trying to do here.
So we are coming to the top of the hour. I think we've had a great kind of open discussion. Here's some stuff we can look at. This could have gone on for 2 hours easily.
Well, and maybe we should do, a follow-up yet when we narrow down maybe like how we want to try and get feedback, and, maybe have some kind of proposal or spec loosely done. So like, here's the idea, right?
Does anybody think that what do you think, Gerald? You kind of thinking this is a good idea? Not entirely. We need some time to think. I think I told Gerald at the beginning of the week, I'm going to send you my thoughts. And then I was like, no, we're going to do this live on screen.
It's always much better. Put it on the spot. No, I definitely think for the aforementioned reasons, like, hey, it could be good to have like one place to actually do this, right? And then also because I do totally understand your reasons, Allan, so don't get me wrong. With the shiny thing, it's kind of like seems like a walled garden right now, right? Like, hey, there's this thing, you can use it, but people have been put off or whatever, be like, oh, I can't even open an issue, or Allan is being like, being Allan. And again, I love you. But so a little bit of synergy maybe, and that starts with getting other people involved. That might definitely be helpful to moving this further, reducing the load kind of like for you alone, and take this to the next level. So,
and it's not even really about reducing the load. It's about removing that walled garden. Like, I haven't traditionally done Windows, like I said, because the support, I don't do Windows. I don't like it.
No, there you go. See,
right?
Even just for that.
If people people don't submit PRs, and then people don't like RX, and there's many reasons why.
Yeah.
I think it's just time to look at, can we get more people involved, and does it make sense to change the branding? Yep. And is there opportunity to bring other people's in and increase even that foundation, right? Linux, Mac OS, etc. So that was my thinking.
I think we're going to continue this discussion.
Yeah.
People in the chat, people who are watching this video later, let us know down in the comments and all the things where you can find us. Like, what are your thoughts? Because we want to make this a community thing, so it's kind of important that you kind of like say what you think. And let's continue on this path and see what it brings us.
Sounds good. All right. With that, we will let John go because he had a hard stop.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Hopefully a softer stop.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.